Hey guys, Saturday, November 16 of 2024. This is our weekend forecast, and this is going to be mixed. There's going to be a little bit of recap, so kind of looking back again at the big picture, kind of zooming out and just kind of seeing where we're at, what are the possibilities. And I'm going to go through all the techniques and theories that I use. Hopefully it's not too long, but I'm going to use like pretty much the basics, and I'll index them on the YouTube, so you can kind of, whatever flavor you like better. If it's Elliott wave, if it's Gann, if it's spectrum cycle, seasonality, just to kind of get a broad stroke of natural gas and what could it potentially be for next year, assuming everything goes well with the new president being in charge. So without any further delay, let's get into it. So I'm using the weekly on the spectrum cycle analysis, using data all the way from 2001-ish all the way to current prices. And you could kind of get a gist of what nat gas normally does. And there are, you could say three. I want to start, I don't know. I'll start with three. I want to kind of show you. There's just one that's 143. It doesn't matter if you remember these numbers or not, but there's one that is 143 is pretty strong. And you can see that this cycle, we'll get closer here, hit a peak on September the 2024, and it's going down into 2026. So this cycle on the weekly spectrum cycle is bearish. Does that mean that we could just probably be chopping around here all the way to 2026? So the whole year of next year could possibly be chop. Maybe some head fakes or whatever. That's if this cycle is going to play out. This cycle has a sister, which is 125. And they're pretty much the same. It has a high Bartel of 92.46. The 143 has a Bartel of 90.12. And this one hits a trough around September of 2025. So this one kind of ends a little earlier and then goes up. The other one goes straight into 2026 and then starts going up. I'm not leaning on these, but I just want you to be aware. Just in case you see that 2025, we're not going nowhere, chances are it's waiting for these to kick in, then to go up. But it's always good to kind of see, the pros and cons of the spectrum cycle. So just in case the one I'm leaning on, which is bullish, which I'm going to show you now, is not the one, and you can see that we're just going sideways, chances are is waiting for one of these two. And if you do a composite of the 143 and the 125, it kind of leads you somewhere around November. Now, getting that one out of the way, which is a bearish weekly cycle. The one I'm leaning on, I call them like sleepers. They're like growing. I mean, it's, it's the way my mindset works. They're sleepers. They're like, this is the one that's probably going to be influencing natural gas. Is the 229. This is the one that I'm leaning on. You can look at what it looks like in the past, but this is the one I'm focusing on going higher into maybe 2026, around there. But the peak, the cycle is going to be going up and is going to peak somewhere around May of 2026. So this was very bullish. If price action gets out of this rut, within this range, if it could close above 333, you can say 350 or $4. If it closed above that, that's very, very bullish. Let me see, that's the June. Yeah, so that's the 363, this one right here. Is that the October? Yep, October 27. That's the 363 high. If we get to close above 363 in 2025, it's very possible we could continue going higher. Not, in a straight shot, but it's going to be, in that ballpark. So this is the one I'm leaning on, 229. This is bullish. The 143 and the 125 that I showed you earlier, those are bullish. So this is the weekly spectrum cycle, and I have these on my notes on my spreadsheet. I like to see both sides. So now let's look at the daily and see where we're at on the daily. Okay, so this is the daily spectrum cycle analysis, and I'm only using 5 years worth of data. So from 2018, you can say all the way to current prices. Pretty much on average 5 years. And there are two important cycles here. There's one that's bullish and there's one that's bearish. I am leaning on you can say the bearish one right now because it makes more sense. And let me show you the bullish one. 328. So 328 is this one. This is the bullish one. So, and this one's interesting because this one is going to be obviously in sync with the weekly. But as you can see, we're having a tough time here, but it could be a curveball. So let's look at it this way. Let's say that I am wrong and that we're not going to go down into, December, November, December, January, February, and we're not going to do this into the new year. Let's say that it's just going to go grinding higher from here. It's going to ignore that. Well, your daily cycle using the 328 is confirming that. Now we want to see price action take out 302 and take out 363 in order to see then this daily cycle, which is the 328, it's backing it up. Price action is getting backed up by this cycle. And this cycle hits a peak around January. So you know what? This cycle is the opposite of what natural gas normally does between January and February. It's going against the grain. And that's okay. I have no problem with that. The data is the data. And this is the technique behind it. What we want to see is higher prices. And you see, with the price action we've been having, we've been stalling around the June 6 high. Somewhere around there, or the 302, 301. We've just been stalling there and having a tough time. So the 328 is bullish. And what will confirm this cycle is that we start just going higher from here into January and February, and then somehow, go down. It'll invert. Prices will be inverted with the cycle, and then it'll go down. So this is the bullish. This is the one I'm not leaning on. I feel that maybe there's going to be more downside. Gap fill, change of contract gap fill down here would get filled. Seasonality indicates that November, December and January and February are weak on natural gas, and spectrum cycle is doing the opposite thing, which is okay. That's normal. I want you to know that this is typically normal, that things go against each other. You're going to see this all the time when you do your analysis. So let's look at now the one I'm leaning on, and I have these on my notes on my spreadsheet, which is the 328. As bullish with question mark, and you know that it already peaks. If you just don't know, it'll peak in January. The one I'm leaning on is the 256. The 256 is bearish, and it hit a peak somewhere around August. And you can see that price action went higher and chopped here. And this cycle is hitting a trough, and we could get closer here, or open it up a little more. This cycle is hitting a trough somewhere around January. You could say January, February. And Although this one, let's see, has a Bartel of 78.29 and the strength is what, 265. Is not as strong. Was it 328? 328 cycle has a Bartel of 80.05, but the strength is 1.77. So it's not as strong as the 328, but the 328 in regards to Bartel is a little stronger. This is a little weaker, but this one makes sense to me in regards to seasonality. This one confirms that the gaps will be filled if this plays out, and this one also follows seasonality in my models. So this is the one. This is the one, and why I'm leaning on the 256, which is bearish. So although upside will probably be limited, eventually when it goes down, it's going to fill the gaps, depending how low it goes. But if it's going to go low, it's going to probably fill the two gaps that we got. And then the lowest one is around $1.90-ish, around there. And once it fills that, and it kind of goes sideways, maybe between January and February, then this cycle is going up with the weekly cycle that I showed you up earlier that's already up. So that's my thesis, that's my theory on why I'm picking these two cycles and see how price action plays. So now the curveball is, if I'm wrong on the daily, and it's not the 256, but it's going to be the 328, and we're going to continue going up from here, November, December, January, and then hit a peak, and then eventually come down. I mean, not a peak like that, but, you know, we'll eventually make a high somewhere and then turn. Then we will need to take out 301, and we will need to take out 315. We will need to take out 363, or maybe eventually get to 363 into January and then turn. And then go down until this peak, this cycle bottoms out, which to me doesn't make sense. I think, you know, markets don't make sense, but that's the opposite, and that's the curveball on that. So as long as you know those cycles, and you know which one is which, and you know which one I'm leaning on, that's all I wanted to, you know, that's important. There's a bullish one, and there's a bearish one, and I'm leaning on the bearish one, and I'll close with the bearish one. And this is what I'm betting on that we're going to play out here. Let's go now to the next clip. Okay, so this is my seasonality chart. Now we'll revisit seasonality chart on some of my other charts that or programs that I use to back all the theories and the data. So starting with this one, percent of months in which nat gas closed higher than it opened from 2020 to 2024. So I like to go in increments of top 5, 10, 15, and then the max 20, and just kind of see how does August to December, even January, February play out. So you can see that on a 5-year worth of data, we don't have a lot of info on December. We could kind of tell that October, November is 40%. It's less than 50%, so it's a little weaker around this time frame. And same thing applies for January and February. So very weak, 40%. It's in that ballpark. When we hit 50%, it's pretty much kind of flat. It could go either way, but mostly just kind of flat. There's no edge there. If we go and grab and go 10 years, you can see that October and November are flat, 50%, but it shows you December is weak, all the way down close to 22, close to 20. And then January and February are weak. What does that tell you already, as we already saw the spectrum cycle analysis, that we have one that is bottoming out somewhere around January and February, which is the daily spectrum cycle, and then it starts going up, while we have the weekly cycle pointing up. So in my mind, I'm waiting for this daily to bottom out between January and February. And then I have the daily and the weekly pointing up. Now I am in sync with the spectrum cycle theory analysis. Now I have weekly and daily cycle going up, but right now it's heading down, waiting for January and February. So my thinking is fill the gap, follow the seasonality, daily spectrum cycle is confirming it. And once that, price gap gets filled or any cheap prices down there, I'm getting it at a super discount, ready to ride this wave of nat gas into 2025. That's my thinking. 15 years worth of data. You see now September and October have a little edge. They're above 50%. You can see that now November's a little weak. And then December, we hit 30%. So it's a little weaker. So December, January, and February are pretty much kind of in the same ballpark. They're kind of weak. 20 years, which is the max that I could use. You see that November's flat and December's weak. So it's stair-stepping down. And January and February fluctuate. January having a little more of an edge, even making a low, like a super low or low prices, compare using 20 years worth of data. December and February are kind of like the lowest. And that's what the natural, seasonality of nat gas is. And then it goes up from here. Then it stair steps down, and it kind of makes a higher here somewhere in this ballpark, and then it goes down. And that's pretty much what the Black Widow likes to do. So that's what's the seasonality chart. Now we're going to go to the next seasonality chart to kind of see in regards to dates and turning points within the 5, 10, or 5, 15, 20 average. Okay, there's another seasonality chart I like to look at, and you can see that right here. Somewhere around October 18, it made a low. That's that change of, I believe that's a change of contract. Can't remember. These are closes. But nonetheless, we're here, November 15. We got that pullback. This is where we were trying to break out of that 301 and fail, pull back. And let's see what November holds. So let's put our 5-year average. And you can see that we're in that ballpark now, that November 14, we grind higher. November 18, November 19, a little pullback. And then this is where it gets toppy. November 21st, all the way to November 26th. So November 21st, kind of sideways action. November 26th, the Black Widow pulls the rug, and that gas starts trending lower. So on 5-year average, this is what she typically does, the Black Widow. So you want to be careful. Get a piece of paper and write these dates. November 26th and November 21st. That's your kind of sideways range where the Black Widow is about to pull the rug. Could be earlier, could be in the middle, could be in the 21st, but this is your ballpark using the 5-year average. So since we got this correction, this pullback, one thing you want to think about is like, okay, is the high in here? This is where I'm kind of leaning that maybe we have one more opportunity or one leg to run higher. So I'm not really falling in love too much with the downside unless we take out some key levels. Then that's different. Then maybe it's not going to follow this, and then it's just already start going down from now. But if it's not, and it's going to do, what she normally does, which is kind of, titty-totty back and forth, in the last couple of days of November and then go down, this is probably going to be playing on average. Now let's look at the 10-year and see what she does. And it's kind of the same thing. November 14, make a low. And November 18, 19, pull back, and then around the 26th, sell. So it's pretty much the last week of November. That's all you have to remember. Using 15 years of data, or 15 years on average, she kind of pulls back on November 14, and then there's a peak on the 21st, which is coming up, and then kind of sideways to lower. and on the 28th, then really pulls in and starts going down. So to sum up this chart, you got the 5, the 10, and the 15. And what's today? The 16th. So 18th, a pop, and then a little pullback on the 19th, and then another strong move to the upside, the 21st, and then kind of goes sideways. They kind of mixed here, but mostly on sideways, and then from the 26th, the rug is pulled, and that guy starts trending lower. Commitments of Traders report. One chart I like to see just to kind of see where the money is. So let's take these out and let's look at retail. Retail, it looks like they are still short. They made a low on the 28th, then popped, and now they're kind of inside range here at 4,414. I just kind of like to see what retail is doing, but you can see that they're short. In regards to large speculators, they are also short. However, between October 21st, 28th, they kind of went sideways and then started buying just a little bit on November 4th and November 11th. Not much of a difference. You can see that's just flatlining. It's just telling me that maybe, like, you know, can it go higher from here? Did they stop selling? So they're on a standstill. Want to see maybe more data, the weather. Wanted to see maybe if Trump won. You know, who knows what they're thinking, and what they're thinking and speculating for 2025. But they kind of just stalled. They weren't selling no more the way they were since August. So now they stopped. And that's large speculators. Those are the people with money speculating. Commercial, they normally like to hedge, and sometimes they like to do their thing, but typically they like to hedge, which is known by them. They started buying, and now they stalled too. But the last report came out, they bought just a little bit. So if you look at large speculators, they bought just a little bit from 149,324 to 151,700. They just bought a little bit, and the large speculators are just a little, just barely. I mean, if anything, they probably just shorted just a little bit, but not by much. That's why it's not even moving. So now they're in a standstill. So next week, I want to see what the report will be. So if nat gas is gonna continue going, you know, if we pop, and then we turn around in November, the last week, and go down, we will want to see large speculators continue selling, commercial buying, unless they're going to start accumulating. And if that's the case, that nat gas is going to go down into December, January, February, then you're going to start seeing large speculators buying once we get to January. And that's going to be a clue and a sign. Is like, okay, so nat gas is trading low in January and February, but we're noticing large speculators buying while it's going lower. Then that is your clue, and kind of like a heads up clue. Is like, hold up, we're low here in January, February, where she typically bottoms out, and large speculators are buying. And you're not going to know that commercial are going to do the opposite while nat gas is ready to launch. And this is just all speculation, but kind of what I'm kind of seeing playing out. And it could be earlier, it could be in December where she rockets it, or maybe this January, February, but somewhere around here. Once she starts doing that, you're going to see large speculators follow. You're going to see commercial, these guys, go in the opposite, selling, while nat gas continues grinding higher. So this is a chart I like to look at just to compare the energy sector. And I know I'm missing some. There's uranium and there's other stuff, but this is kind of typically what traders, like to trade. And I'm looking at the monthly. You can see that just by looking at the monthly itself is just a chop fest range. Nothing's trending here. Nothing's trending here. You can make money, but there's nothing trending like this. Just remember that. Sometimes you got to just zoom out. This is trending. This is where you make money. This is where you can make money, but it's just kind of back and forth. I got to get out. I think it's going higher now. Oh, I got to get out. It's going to go lower. This is, you got to constantly keep watching and putting alerts. Just chop fest. You know, not going anywhere. Same thing with natural gas. This was trending. This is trending. Now we came back, bear, and now consolidation, sideways action, chop fest, scalping here and there, little swing trades, getting out. This is the environment we're in right now until maybe 2025 is going to bring this. We don't know yet, but this is just speculation. This is trend. This, you buy it and just trail your stop, and you'll probably watch me maybe once a month. Don't got to worry about it. Don't worry about it. That's it. We're going trending. Let's look at the weekly. You see, you can make money. You know, little moves like here, but you can see that it's bearish, trending lower, bearish. Obviously, you know, elections, that makes sense. Heating oil. It looks like it's not even cold winter. I haven't looked at the forecast on the weather, but very weak, just sideways. And natural gas is going up. Didn't I tell you about the conspiracy? That's not a conspiracy. It's just patterns I've noticed. All natural gas brothers and sisters, when they're all going down, she has a tendency to go up. But when she goes down, all of them start going higher. So when that gas starts, when it turns in November, if it turns, but when she does turn, and they pull the rug and she starts going down, keep a good eye on crude oil. I don't know about heating oil. I noticed them more on crude oil, but maybe it applies to all of them. Keep an eye on all of them to see when she starts going down, if they all start going up. Just pay attention on that. That's something I've noticed. I can't pinpoint it why, but I just feel like she's the one that's inverse to everybody else. When she goes up, they all go down. And when she goes down, they all kind of get a little rally. They just go in inverse. I guess it's just maybe money coming out of natural gas going into the other energy sectors. I don't know. It's very strange. I haven't figured it out. It's something that I've noticed. But that's pretty much it where we're at, where we could probably push higher, but we need to take out these key levels. And then that's going to be our last leg into November, and then maybe go into weakness and fill these gaps and do the seasonality. The last clip, I'm going to do this maybe part 2, because I already know it's long. I'm going to do just the Elliott wave and then leave it there. And then on Sunday, I'm going to continue. And that's going to cover the other things that I look at, more geometry and Gann, and a little bit of natural cycles and seasonality, and maybe neural net computers, you know, stuff like that I like to look at. So let's look at Elliott wave, and we'll end the video. And Sunday, we'll look at all the other more in-depth analysis that I look at. Okay, so this is my Elliott wave chart, and I just wanted to show you what's going on here. So this green, if you're catching up and you're new to the channel, I cover Elliott wave, and then you may ask, well, you're a Gann guy. Why you look at Elliott wave? I'm from the school that it's good to look at everything. You want to see where your other traders are in their theories and what they look at. So you can kind of see what that school of thought is doing and what they're thinking in their trading. And that's me. You know, it might be overload for you, but it's good for me because, one, I am learning their technique and their theory and how they apply it to their markets. And I'm looking at it compared to my theory and my technique, which is Gann, and see if there's any correlations and things that line up together that make sense. But at the same token, I want to see what they're thinking also. And I think it's a good technique. I'm not a master at it like other guys on YouTube, but I get my ears wet and I just kind of get an idea of what, what's behind the theory. So that's why I put a little bit of Elliott wave on here. And I'm assuming there's a few Elliott wave guys in my YouTube channel that are hardcore YouTube channels that hardcore Elliott wave guys that like to see what Gann stuff is doing, what Gann theory, and they like to compare it on what their Elliott wave count and theory is. So we go back and forth. That's why. So with that being said, this green projection line here, this is the seasonality. So this is a seasonality from another data set. You can see that on average also. November 8th, it kind of peaks, it pulls back. You can see that we got this pop here, which was an inverse. And on November 15th, Friday, it makes a low. And that makes sense. We made a low of what, 268, if I'm right? My mind sometimes is not too sharp, but somewhere around there we made a low. And now the average is indicating that we, grind higher or just make another high to the 27th. Does that ring a bell? 26? Did 26 ring a bell on the seasonality chart that I was showing you? On average, between the 21st and 26th. Are you getting the way I do my analysis? Are you getting it? Is it making all sense? Are you writing these things down? Are you? I mean, if you want to be really good, these are the things you need to, have in the back of your mind. Especially if you're really hardcore trading that gas. These are the things you need to be thinking about. Did it make sense? Around November 26, 27, the Black Widow pulls the rug and you see the drop. I mean, I'm not making this up. I'm not just telling you, stuff that I'm not making things up pretty much. I'm telling you what on average the Black Widow normally does. And I also tell you that sometimes the Black Widow could do a curveball and ignore seasonality. So you have to be on your toes waiting for that also. But when you see price action doing this, feel confident that chances are she's going to continue going lower. You just have to kind of, feel it out. So I'm expecting maybe a rally into the last week of November. Now, is it going to take out 301, 302? It could. We could just be chopping around here until she can't make a new high at 301, 315. And then on the last week of November, she pulls the rug out on us, and then she really is going to start trending down. That's very possible. But I want you to see, the probabilities of, if price action is following this, that it's very high likely that she could go down. Let's see. So that's that. That makes sense. And we're here. We're having a tough time here. This 301. There's also a 315 somewhere, and then the 363. And you can see in regards to levels, this right here, 220, 297. There's one up here at 305. That's to go long, and we break above that. Stokes are still up here, which is good. We don't have the black line yet kicking in, and it's like, okay, now be careful. And you can see that she was still grinding higher until here, which is at the October 3rd high. That's at 301. And then the Stokes unwind. But we don't have that yet here, so we're good for maybe another push higher. That's what I'm saying. Be careful. Don't fall in love with either side yet until we get into that time frame, which is the last week of November, where she typically, I'm not saying she's gonna do it, she typically likes to get weaker. And then maybe start thinking about shorts and looking for pops. Switch the strategy from now. Every pop I get, I'm gonna pounce and short. Every pop I get, I'm gonna pounce to short, and start building a position on the short side. Not trading advice, but just speculating until January and February, where she kind of bottoms out, and then there's a cycle where she could start trending higher. All right, so I covered that. Let's look at Let's look at the Elliott wave. Where are we at now? Whoa, look at that. Things already changed with the Elliott wave theory. So let's just get closer to here. So our 1018 low, we got a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So going to continue going lower from here? Possibly. Could there be a higher 5? Yeah, there's a 322 over here. That could be your wave 5, and then start going lower. So it could go lower from here, or you got a wave 5 coming up that's going to be here, which is 322. So let's look at levels real quick. Let's put our targets here. Linear regression's channel pointing up. So we're still groovy to the upside. There's a lot of support here. I don't know, we bounced off of 268. So we got a bullish candle. You're above this moving average. Linear regression channel is pointing up. There's a possible wave 5 here of around 322. Very extreme will be 329. Your midpoint will be 325. So somewhere around 322 and 329 is your sweet spot for a wave 5. And that's kind of lining up with the last week of November. Keep an eye out for 11/19, which is coming up. It's just a date to watch. And also 12/10, but I think somewhere around the last week we'll go lower here. The ellipse technique, watch out for the 11/20th right there. Volatility increases. I think we have one right there and here. So maybe sideways here, pull back, maybe jump, but maybe from here, pull back down. Maybe it's earlier. Maybe it's on, it's between the 21st and the 26th, where's that window where she could turn on you. So be careful. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Let's look at some other stuff here. Some cycles I had. This is, I think, at the 26th. This is the, this is maybe either the 26th or the 76th. You can see that we're peaking somewhere around the 21st. So we're in that ballpark between the 21st and the 26th. And this cycle, a little more fractal, now it starts going down. The other one starts going down here in the 27th. So it's a little inverse. Time clusters. It's a big gap here in between. And Stokes, pretty much the one I follow, is just kind of sideways here. But no black line here yet. Now targets to the downside. Let's see, we move this up here. Let's close this up. Targets to the downside I have will be all the way down here. So you can say between 186, 183 is your midpoint, and 179. And that's targets I have once the Black Widow says, all right, that's it. Time to go to bed and start going lower. These are the targets. I don't know if they coincide with gap fill, change of contract gap fills, but this is a sweet spot for me to start accumulating, assuming that 2025, that's when we're going to start going higher. So even, I'm not going to load up the truck, but I'll be purchasing if we ever get down here. ETF, UNG, stuff like that. Not crazy, just build a little position. I want to get some exposure for 2025 and then just see what happens. Well, hopefully I covered a lot. Stay tuned for tomorrow. That's going to be the Gann stuff. So you're into Gann, some natural cycles and my projection lines, and then the neural net. That'll be for tomorrow's video. So this is part 1. And then tomorrow's video will be part 2 into the other techniques that I use. And look at geometry, look at the scale chart. I want to see where we're at and, look at the probabilities of where it could possibly go. And maybe to do a little forecasting into 2025. All right, I'm going to sign out. Hopefully you like this video. Let me know your thoughts, your comments. What do you think? What do you think is going to play out? She's going to pop. She's going to grind higher. She's going to go sideways. But she'll probably start getting weak. And it's going to be probably the best buying opportunity we're going to get into 2025. You know, speculating that she's probably going to continue going higher. All right. Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to sign out. I'll keep you posted on my thoughts on that gas.